The ultimate lie sold by high-return schemes isn't the guaranteed profit, it's the promise of a shortcut to wealth that bypasses diligence. It's a really seductive idea, right? The thought that you, and maybe only you, have stumbled upon the secret path that everyone else just missed. But here's the thing. That path is a trap, and it's engineered with absolute psychological precision to turn your own ambition against you. So today, we're going to deconstruct that very trap. All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to talk about the shortcut illusion, that core idea that makes these scams so powerful. Then, we'll get into the psychological setup, which is basically how the scammer lays the groundwork. After that, we do a full forensic breakdown of the attack itself, step by painful step. We'll look at exactly how it hijacks your brain's decision-making process. And finally, and this is the most important part, we're going to build a mandatory, non-negotiable defense to make you completely immune to this kind of exploit. So, let's start with the big paradox at the center of all of this. See, these scams don't just prey on greed. That's way too simple. What they really exploit is a much more universal human desire. The desire to skip the slow, hard, and let's be honest, often frustrating process of actually building wealth. The scammer isn't really selling you a stock or some new crypto coin. They're selling you a fantasy where you get to be the exception to the rule, where you land that one big win that erases the need for years of hard work. Now, think about that for a second. The very thing that makes the opportunity seem so irresistible, this promise of huge, easy money, is the exact same thing that guarantees you're going to lose everything. It's a wild contradiction. This isn't some bug in our thinking, it's a well-documented feature of human psychology that is predictable and frankly ruthlessly exploited. The system is designed so that the more you want that shortcut, the more vulnerable you become. This brings us to the psychological setup. And let me be perfectly clear about something. Falling for these scams has absolutely nothing to do with how smart you are. It has everything to do with being human. The people running these schemes are masters of applied psychology. They are targeting a universal desire that exists in every single one of us, no matter our background or education. This is a systematic exploitation of our cognitive wiring. The number one weapon they use in this setup is FOMO, the fear of missing out. We all know it. Scammers weaponize this by creating this powerful illusion of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. They frame the deal not just as a good one, but as unique and fleeting. This instantly short-circuits our natural need to do our homework. The fear of missing the boat becomes way more powerful than the fear of the boat sinking. And you stop asking, hey, is this safe? And you start asking, how do I get in before it's gone? And this lays out the formula perfectly. It's a 1-2 punch. On one side, you've got the pressure of time. That's scarcity. On the other, you've got the supposed expert. That's authority. The scammer's entire goal is to overwhelm your brain's ability to think critically by smashing these two things together. First, scarcity. There are only 3 spots left, or this offer is gone in an hour. Then, authority. They act like an expert using all sorts of complicated jargon, talking about a proprietary algorithm or some insider knowledge. This combination creates a state of, well, excitement-induced paralysis, where your rational mind just gets pushed to the side and your emotional, impulsive brain takes the driver's seat. Okay, let's get into the actual anatomy of the attack. It is so important to understand that this isn't just some random crime. It is a repeatable, engineered system with very distinct, predictable stages. You can think of it as an opportunity impersonation system. It's designed to look and feel exactly like a legitimate investment while being the polar opposite. So the whole thing unfolds in 3 basic stages of emotional hijacking. Let's walk through this. Stage 1 is initiation. This is where they grab your attention using those principles of scarcity and authority we just talked about. Then comes stage 2, escalation. Here, they crank up the pressure using FOMO, and they strategically cut you off from any outside opinions or advice. And then finally, stage 3, extraction. This is the endgame, where they push for an immediate, irreversible transfer of your money. So right here in the initiation stage, this is the crucial moment. This is when the hook is set. The scammer, through their whole performance of being an expert and dangling this limited-time offer, convinces you that you've stumbled upon a secret. The idea that this is an exclusive, unrepeatable chance to get rich gets planted firmly in your mind. And everything they do from this point on is designed to protect that one fragile belief. Now we move into escalation, and here's where the manipulation flips. To make you a true believer, they might even show you small, early profits. This is the classic Ponzi principle, right? You might see a fake statement showing you made a 10% return in just 1 week. Your excitement goes through the roof, and at the same time, they isolate you. They'll say things like, "Don't tell your financial advisor about this, he'll just try to steal the idea." The urgency and those fake profits become so powerful that they completely override any instinct you might have to actually verify anything. And that brings us to the final act, extraction. This is the psychological choke point. All the pressure, all the manufactured excitement and urgency, it all leads to this one single, high-stakes demand. A large wire transfer, right now, to some unregulated account. At this moment, the victim doesn't see risk. They see the price of admission. The final step to locking in their big win. So we've seen how the attack works, but now let's talk about why it's so devastatingly effective. This isn't just trickery. It's a systematic hijacking of proven psychological principles that control how our brains evaluate risk and reward. It is a direct attack on our very wiring. At the very heart of this exploit is something called prospect theory. It actually won a Nobel Prize. In simple terms, it proves that we feel the pain of a loss way more than the pleasure of an equal gain. But, and this is the important part, it also shows that we are wired to become surprisingly willing to take huge risks when we're faced with the possibility of a massive gain. We just overweight that small chance of winning big. Scammers know this. They don't have to convince you the win is a sure thing. They just have to make the potential prize big enough to trigger this incredibly powerful bias in our brains. And this slide just illustrates brilliantly how they do it by manipulating the two operating systems in our brain. On the left, you've got the fast, emotional, gut instinct brain. Psychologists call it System 1. The scammer lights this part up with urgency and that promise of a huge reward. On the right, you've got the slow, logical, analytical brain, System 2. The scammer's entire goal is to shut this part of your mind down, to put it to sleep with pressure and overload, so you end up feeling instead of thinking. So, to just quickly recap, these are the 4 core tools in the scammer's toolkit. First, authority bias, which makes you trust their fake expertise. Then, the scarcity heuristic, our built-in belief that rare things must be more valuable. Third is gain seeking, that thing from prospect theory we just discussed, which makes you willing to take that crazy risk. And finally, the critical one, the isolation effect, which stops anyone, your spouse, a friend, a real advisor, from breaking the spell. All right, now that we've completely dissected the attack, we can finally build the defense. And this is not about just being more skeptical or telling you to be careful. This is about implementing a clear, simple, and absolutely non-negotiable counter protocol. Think of it like an operating system for your financial safety. First, you have to recognize the pattern. These are the universal red flags, and they almost always show up together. If someone offers you guaranteed above-market returns, that's red flag number 1. Real investments have risk, period. If they put intense pressure on you to act now and to keep it a secret, that's red flag number 2, and it's designed specifically to isolate you. If the contact was unsolicited, meaning they found you, that's red flag number 3. And if they demand an immediate, irreversible wire transfer, that is the final massive red flag. Seeing this combination isn't a sign to investigate more, it is a definitive signal to cut off all contact immediately. So, if you see that pattern, what is the single action you have to take? What is the one check that is absolutely mandatory with 0 exceptions? Here it is, the answer, the mandatory regulatory check. In the United States, every single legitimate investment advisor and firm has to be registered with the SEC or FINRA. You can verify this in seconds online using their free tool called Broker Check. I would seriously suggest you pause this explainer right now and just Google FINRA Broker Check so you know exactly where it is. This is not a suggestion, it's a required step. It is the circuit breaker. A scammer cannot and will not be listed in these official databases. This one simple check makes their entire elaborate scam just fall apart. I want you to memorize this sentence. This is your decisive protocol statement. The moment you feel that pressure, you use this exact phrase. I will only proceed once I confirm the official SEC registration number and receive a verifiable prospectus. This statement does 2 incredible things. It instantly stops the scammer's momentum and it puts you back in total control. Their entire system depends on you skipping this step. By demanding it, you break their script and expose the whole operation for what it is. And that brings us right back to where we started. The scam sells the illusion of a shortcut to wealth. But the truth is, the only real shortcut is diligence. That mandatory regulatory check, that demand for a prospectus, that 5 minutes of work is the true shortcut to protecting every dollar you've ever earned. The real big win isn't some magical investment. It's having the knowledge and the discipline to see the trap before you even get close to stepping in it.